What's up, y'all? I am back with part 4 of my Hoodoo Storytime Slick. All right, y'all. So when we left off, they had just made it to his grandparents' house, and they were talking, catching up, and they were letting his grandparents know about the events that led up to Slick losing his gift. So, grandma had to preach a little bit, and she had to let him know that he needed to do some self-reflection and he needed to change his ways and change some of the things that he was doing. And that's what Slick was telling her, that he was thinking about not even going back to the city, and that he did want to change his life. And if that he could get his gifts back, he definitely would use them for good and not for bad. So after that, Slick goes out to have some man-to-man talk with his granddaddy Fox. They go to granddaddy Fox's little man cage out in the barn, and Sabrina stays in the house with Grandma Bill. When Slick and Granddaddy Fox go out to the man cave, Granddaddy Fox decides to test Slick and see if, does he have any of his gift left. So he said, you remember when you was little and you would get the playing cards and you would guess which card is in the deck? And Slick was like, yeah, Granddaddy, I remember that, but I don't know if I can do that now. Well, Granddaddy Fox was like, it's worth a try. So they took a couple of sips of some moonshine, and then Granddaddy Bill holds up a card. Slick can't see the card, and he tells Slick to guess what the card was. And Slick was kind of struggling with it. So he handed Slick the card, even though he still couldn't see it. Slick was touching the card. And he said, just close your eyes and try to concentrate. So Slick did that, and he guessed the ace of spades. And he was right. So Granddaddy Fox was like, okay, grandson, you still got something. He said, okay, now what card is this? And he held out another card. Slick touches the card. And as he's touching the card and he's closing his eyes, he's starting to see something. He's seeing like chains, he's seeing fire, and it's like he can hear Sabrina crying in the distance. And that's when he says, the 10 of diamonds. And Granddaddy Fox said, yeah. He said, so this is telling me that you still have your gift. It's just being interfered with. So that's when Slick started telling Granddaddy Fox about the man dressed in all black with the hat on that he saw at the crossroads. From that, Granddaddy Fox was like, that could be a crossroads spirit. And that's when he said it was a story that was passed down through the family of one of our relatives that made a deal with a spirit at the crossroad, and it wasn't good. So that's why they always warned us throughout the years never to talk or make a deal with any of these spirits at the crossroads. So that's when Slick was like, well, if it's a crossroads spirit, that means somebody had to make a deal with them. Ain't that or something? Right, Granddaddy? And that's when Granddaddy Fox was like, yeah, that's the part we got to figure out. Meanwhile, back in the kitchen, Sabrina is basically telling Grandma Belle the same thing. She's like, I keep having this dream about this man dressed in black, and then when we was getting close to y'all house, we saw him at a crossroad. And that's when Grandma Belle was like, yeah, this might be some type of crossroad spirit. So then she goes and she pulls out her grimoire. She feels really comfortable around Sabrina because she doesn't usually pull this book around anybody that is not blood. So they look through the book and they see she comes to a page where it talks about a crossroad spirit. So the name of the spirit, the crossroad spirit in the book, is called Zabriel. Okay? It's a spirit of the crossroads, the keeper of the last path, the one who remembers. And it's a walker between breath and bone. Okay? So the way this entity is described in the grimoire is not necessarily a demonic entity. It's a trickster spirit. Okay, it tricks you into contracts. Basically, you make agreements with it, and whatever you wish for, if it grants it for you, then you have to repay with your soul. So Sabrina then says, this really does sound like the entity, This really does sound like what it was. So you're saying this is not a real person? He just taking the form of a real person? And that's when Grandma Bill was like, yeah, he can change. He can move around. He can look differently, you know? So, yeah, this might be what we're dealing with. But the first thing we got to do is try to see if we can help Slick get his gifts back before we can try to go up against this thing. So it was getting kind of late or whatever. So, Granddaddy and Grandma Bell, they was getting ready to turn in. They told Slick and Sabrina, Slick, your room on one end, Sabrina, your room on the other end, because Grandma Bell didn't play that. They wasn't married, so they wasn't sharing a room. So after everybody got their respectable places, Slick told her to meet him outside so they could smoke a little something before they turn in for the night. While they're out there smoking, Sabrina asks him, she says, well, how are you feeling about everything? He says he's feeling better, but he knows that he got to figure out what's going on with his gifts. He does feel optimistic. He does feel like he can get them back with the help of his grandparents and her. He then thanks her again for coming with him. That's when he asks her how was she feeling, and how was she feeling when meeting his parents and his grandparents and everything. And that's when she said that his grandparents were two of the sweetest people she had ever met, and she can only wish for a love like theirs. And that's when he said, well, did you believe everything they're saying about us knowing each other from the past? And Sabrina was like, well, it got to be something because I'm here. I would have never did this. If my family finds out where I am, they'll have a fit. And that's when Slick was like, well, what did you tell them? She was like, well, I just told them I was staying on campus for an internship that I actually turned down. Slick was like, dang, I feel bad. You turning down an internship? I don't want to interfere with your life. And she was like, nah, it's cool. I want to help you. I feel like it's something I need to do. She was like, it shouldn't take us no longer than 2 weeks for you to get your gifts back. And then after that, I can go back to the city. I'm not sure what you're going to do. And that's when Slick was like, yeah, at this point, I really don't know. He was like, Shine running the business. Things are kind of quiet right now, but if I come back to the city, I might shake shit up again. I don't know. I'm really thinking about walking away from all that and just hanging it up and just trying to find something else to do with my life. But whenever you're ready to go back, I'll send you back on the train. So for the next 3 days and nights, they fasted. They fasted only eating fruits, and then they took a series of spiritual baths every night. Grandma Bell told them that they had to spiritually cleanse themselves so that they can open themselves up enough to source and figure out what's going on with Slick and his gifts. So that's what they did, y'all. They grounded. They went outside. They sat under the sun for hours. They grounded. They walked in the grass. Slick was out there helping Granddaddy Fox plant his garden. And Sabrina was outside too. It was just like they really just shut down and they spiritually cleansed themselves for the next 3 days. But it was getting close to the end of the week and it was time for them to have their family reunion. So Grandma Bell already had let Slick know. She was like, your family's coming. We having it at the park and, we've been planning this for a while. So the day came of the family reunion. Everybody got to meet Sabrina, the family. Slick's mom came down. A bunch of his cousins came. Even his cousin Nadine from the other Storytime. Yeah, she was there too. And everybody really liked Sabrina. They kept telling her that Slick never brought a girl down south and she had to be special. So anyway, it was a lot of people from the town there, people that Slick grew up with, and it was a lot of girls that was on him, okay? So he was introducing her as his friend. He never said that she was his girlfriend. And Sabrina kind of felt some type of way about it, but she knew that this was real fresh, but she just felt like because she made a sacrifice to come down there, he should have been introducing him as the girlfriend, whether she was or not. But it was cool. Then they decided to get in the pool. So she took off her little dress. She had her bathing suit under it. And everybody was like, dang, baby got body. So when Slick saw her, he was like, wow, But he didn't want to make it look obvious, but he couldn't keep his eyes off of her. So they having a good time. They vibing, y'all. And then as Sabrina's in the water, she realizes that part, as she looked out over the park, she realized that was the part from her dream, y'all. Come back for part 5.